Hey, how's it going? It's Harrison Burns here again, and we have Garrett who's joining us for a second interview. And this is basically titled The Need to Talk About Death. So, death is a concept in which it affects us all, and it's an inevitable part of life, and it's incontrovertible, despite everyone who likes to deny it, whether your belief is reincarnation, afterlife, or the void and lack of afterlife thereof. It doesn't matter. Everybody goes through death at some point or another, whether it's personally or somebody close to them passing away. And it's just a question of time for a lot of us. And it's a very touchy and depressing topic to talk about. And it's a very strange topic, bizarre, in fact, to talk with others. And broaching the subject of death and dying is something not a whole lot of people want to. So I have Garrett here as my interlocutor to discuss said things. Garrett, thank you again and welcome.
Yes, it's great for having me as well. If you want me to talk a little bit myself, I'm pretty sure you viewers probably know who I am. I'm Garrett Barden. I'm 0331, United States Marine Corps, 24 years old. And again, happy to be here.
All right, thanks, Garrett. So first question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there's a need to talk about death with young adults in whether it's schools publicly, whether it's in the home and their family? Do you think that there's just a need to discuss said things? Because many reasons, one of them being not a whole lot of people like to talk about it. But beyond that point, Tom used to do discussions in health class and talk about death and dying. And he would bring in really kind of ominous visuals of caskets and funeral brochures and all these things, or brochures, geez. And he would talk about death at length through these classes that he would hold in public high schools. And it would make a lot of students uncomfortable. And I think some of them actually walked out. He discussed earlier with me that there was a girl who had just recently dealt with the death of her grandfather, and she had to leave the classroom during the discussion. So it shows him, and it also shows him not just that it's uncomfortable, but it's not even done at all. At least in a very, if it is done at all, it's very little, and it's very brief. And I don't think people really fully appreciate that. So do you personally think that there's a lack of talking about death? And if so, why is it important for us to talk with young adults about this in specific, like teenagers, high school students, people who can really comprehend it and understand it? Why do you think it's important?
Well, it's important for one thing that it's the cycle of life. Everyone goes through it. And I think the more you talk about it, the less of, I'm not going to say it still doesn't hurt, but to understand death and to have that information, it makes it a little easier for some people to understand and to go through it and, experience in a manner of talking about a very uncomfortable situation. Because again, as you stated, people would either walk out about it or, be very reprehensive and pull back a little bit because they don't want to either hear it, see it, or have anything to do with it. It's very important that we understand death and the need to talk about it, not only to build a better mindset, but a tolerance as it, not to be numb. I'm not saying that we should be like, oh, it's death, it's nothing. No. It gives you the mindset that when it comes time for somebody, or when it's time for you to, whether it be an untimely or something like that, it's not as scary. It's not as like, oh crap, what's going through the mind. It's not a rush. It's good to talk and take it slow about these things. It's very important to build that better mental capacity of understanding and being able to process it.
Yeah, I think that for those that remain, death should never take precedence over life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that seems kind of bleak and just kind of blunt and almost insulting to those who are dealing with someone who's close to them who has passed away. But it's right. It's true. For those that remain, it should be moreover a celebration of life, and you pay your respects, and then you understand that life has to go on, and life will move on whether you like it or not. And time makes everything a little bit softer, which actually brings me to my next question, and it's concerned with you and you personally, Garrett. I know that you've dealt with death in the family, but who was it, and how did you come to grieve through it?
So I've experienced my fair share of death in family. I've literally in this last year, I've already lost two of my uncles. Back when I was still in high school, I lost the man who I'm named after. My middle name is Thomas, and he was the greatest, man next to my grandfather that I've ever known. We call him Uncle Tom. And, it was a very hard time when he passed. He passed a year before I graduated high school. And he was dying through cancer. He was a Marine as well, by the way. He also motivated me, along with the rest of my family, to become a fifth generation in the Marines. And it was a time between, the adolescent years where I was just immature about it. And it really brought into perspective, like, why did it have to happen? And, I've also dealt with my other, uncle who passed away last year. I wasn't able to go to his funeral, and I wasn't able to go to someone because I was deployed. So it really does affect a lot of people. And as of recently, I just lost a really good friend who I've been to boot camp with. I went to ITB with. He was saving some people in a car crash. There was a big old thing that happened on the freeway, and another semi truck lost control, and it struck him and ended up killing him as he was trying to do the right thing, and save some people's lives. So it's definitely like affected me in the terms that I know I've been through it, and I've also talked to other people, when they go through it. Death is something that people definitely shy away from. They don't like to talk about it because it's a hard thing to talk about. It's a hard thing to accept. Moreover, it leaves people with a bunch of feelings of regret and stuff. But as you were saying, that the most important thing is we need to celebrate the life that we have and celebrate the life that they had. We can't just keep filling our head with the woulda, shoulda, coulda, because it's always going to be too late for that. Instead, focus on the now, focus on the good times, because that's the things that at the end of the day help and actually get us through it. Because it's not going to ever dim the pain. It's not ever going to let it go away, but it reminds you of the value and the greatness of not only their life, but your life.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people overlook through death, is that they get caught up in the grief and the melancholy of life. They forget that death is what actually gives your life meaning. It's not that it gives your life purpose, but it gives your life meaning. And knowing your days are numbered and your time is limited, and knowing that it will come to pass at one point or another. Like I said before, it's just a question of time. It's a question of when. And nobody knows, and death comes for us all. Nobody knows when that's going to be, what day, what hour, what year, where it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Nobody knows that. And not knowing sometimes is nobody really knows, but not knowing is what should drive you forward. And I think a lot of people miss that. They don't understand that not knowing the time and where and how isn't a curse. It's normal. And I think that going through, like you said, going through death in your family, did you have a point in which you were also dealing with other things, whether that was an absentee father or whether you were just dealing with something else with your siblings or your mother? Did having a death around that time also aggravate other things you were dealing with?
It most definitely did, as because I'm pretty sure we've talked about or discussed with other people, but stress upon stress and just depression and other stuff to people, like they've gone through it, and you add another thing to the pile, it just puts you at a lower state, and it really does affect people. But the thing that gets me and other people, I believe, through it is knowing that we still have our life to live. And that's and if people don't realize that, you can't just, yes, it's not saying you shouldn't grieve, you shouldn't, think about the problems that are going on, but when it's stuff like that more over, I think that's the time for us to stop, collect ourselves, and think. Allow us to grieve, but don't let it overtake you. Because again, we still got to think of the long term. We still got to think about our lives to live. We can't let it just, hold us over this looming shadow over our heads and let it just bind us. No, we have to, especially for the ones that are not here anymore, they wouldn't want this for us, especially if they're somebody really close to you. They know, and you should know, that they would want you to be happy. They would want you to, not grieve for them the rest of your life and just live yourself in this void of nothingness in your head of just saying, well, it doesn't matter. Why should I keep striving? No. That is an insult to the people who have passed. They want you to continue going on, and you should want that as well. You should want yourself to succeed and make their memories even longer and make it last. They say, hey, I did, like, say it's your grandfather or say it's your mother or father. Let them have somebody to talk about long when you're gone. Say, hey, they instilled this into me. Let's say they instilled really great values into you. You pass that on. It shows that you're strong, resilient, and it shows moreover growth and character. And they'll just keep talking about that. Well, I learned it from so-and-so, my mother, who sadly passed away, or I've learned it from my uncle, my grandfather. I set an example, and I give something for others to look at and myself to look forward to. I like getting compliments. I like, getting these things that get my mind off it because I was instilled into it, and I'm going to keep that memory alive in them.
Well, I had other questions, but you pretty much answered them with your explanation. I guess if somebody's watching this and they're dealing with grief right now, or they're dealing with something that is exceptionally hard, like a death in the family, or even specifically they're dealing with somebody who passed away recently, who they were close to, what would you say to them?
I would say, don't be afraid to talk about how it affects you. Find somebody, that you can either confide in, or find something to help with the grief in a positive way. Not like, going and saying, oh, it's going to be in a rut, depression, going drinking, doing things that wouldn't make the dearly beloved and the dearly departed ashamed, or thinking that, you're, it doesn't matter. Find something that makes a positive influence on you and others. And that will make you feel better. That will make you in a better mindset. It'll make you a better person. And it'll make the ones who are departed, better and feel, like they're in good hands. Make them, and for yourself, give that mindset of improvement and talk and anything else that you think you can use in a positive manner to make yourself in a better state of mind.
Well, Garrett, articulate and amazing as always. Thank you so much for your input, man.
Yes, thank you for having me. And I look forward to having another discussion if you ever need me. This is a very important topic, and I feel that this needs to be discussed more, and it needs to be discussed in a positive light and in a positive setting.
I agree. Likewise, brother. Thank you again.
Anytime.